Good evening, listeners. You're tuned into ghostly broadcast, Paranormal Station. I am your host, Timothy, broadcasting the paranormal testimonies from my farm. Tonight, we journey to West Virginia, a place rich in the historical foundations of the United States, and a place where the cracks between the realms are on full display. Our first story comes from Elijah in Buckhannon. Dear Timothy, my name is Elijah. A year today, my wife Beth, son Zach, and daughter Joy moved into an old house on the outskirts of Buckhannon. The place was a steal for a young family of first-time buyers. We honestly thought we'd been blessed. It didn't take long before we realized why the place had sold so cheaply. The thing is, me and Beth had been told that the place had a sordid past. The previous owner had died in the house, having lost his own family in mysterious circumstances. We didn't want to look into it, figuring that it was best not to know. The less we knew, the less we would dwell on it. Neither of us were superstitious, so what was the harm? We had a house that was ours. At least we thought. Joy was the first to see them. What seemed like an innocent enough game, dreamed up in the imagination of a 5-year-old, turned sinister quite quickly. "Daddy, have you seen the wall people?" she asked me. "What wall people?" I asked. "The people in the wall. They make funny faces with me," she said. Joy would stand in front of the wall in the hallway, pulling faces and giggling to herself. Zach was the second to see them. He came to Beth and I's room to tell us he had a nightmare, and the face in the ceiling wouldn't stop watching him. "Zach, aren't you a little old for nightmares?" I asked. "Don't be mean. Go and help him back to bed." Beth scolded me in a whisper, so I obliged. "Where is this ceiling face?" I asked, trying to sound like I was taking our 10-year-old seriously. "There," he said, pointing up, just past the ceiling fan. I squinted my eyes. The textures and paint on the ceiling seemed to show something, but I couldn't make it out. As I moved to turn my gaze away, it almost looked like it moved, morphing briefly into a veiled face. But I turned the light on, and it was gone. "Come on, Zach. Let's get you to bed," I said. The weeks passed, and Zach's night terrors weren't getting any better. Instead of giggles and laughter from Joy, she would sit and stare catatonically at the wall. Even Beth was starting to say that there was something creepy about the bathroom at night. Something off. Like we were being watched from every corner of the house. Our last night at the house was the first time I saw what they'd been talking about. I was up at 3 a.m. again. It had become like clockwork. Whether it was because I needed to pee or cause I was thirsty, I would wake up at 3 exactly. I was staring in the mirror at my own reflection, trying to figure out how I could be both wide awake and tired beyond comprehension, when suddenly my face began to warp and morph in the mirror into something that wasn't me. The glass moved like a sheet with a face pressing against it. It snarled and then screamed at me, threatening to burst through the mirror. I jumped backwards from it and heard Joy screaming from her bedroom. I dashed out into the second-floor hallway, and every wall in the house was covered in these moaning, gnashing faces. The walls moved like cling film as they tried to push through. Beth was up and grabbing hold of Zach as I burst into Joy's room. She was holding her ears closed and keeping her eyes tightly shut. I grabbed her and darted downstairs and out the door to meet Beth and Zach. We spent the night in a motel in nothing but our PJs while we figured out what to do. Our homeownership dreams were shattered by the loss we took selling the place, but we couldn't live there. No one could. Whoever buys that place, I hope they burn it to the ground. Something evil is there, something trying to get out. Yours, Elijah. Thank you for your testimony, Elijah. I hope you and your family recovered from your encounter with the spirits in your old home. Some entities lay claim to places in our physical world, and it is very difficult to get them to let go. Our second testimony. Dear Timothy, I'm Aaron. When I was a high school sophomore, my dad moved my mom and me out to a little place called Middleway, West Virginia, for work. He was a writer and was doing research for a historical text. When I was young, it always felt like an adventure. As I got older, it meant a lifetime of growing up without any real friends. The problem started small. My mom confronted me about some of her clothes. They'd been cut to pieces. Not torn, but slashed cleanly, like they had been cut with scissors. "Why did you do this, Aaron?" she yelled. "Mom, I swear." "I didn't do it," I retorted. "I know this move has been hard on you, but this is no excuse," she screamed, ignoring my pleas. Being grounded wasn't too much of an issue. It's not like I had any friends to hang out with anyway. But late that night, while my parents were out, I could hear something. Snipping noise, metal gliding through fabric. I wandered around the house, trying to figure out where it came from. It was in the walls. It was in my head. No one direction, just the snip, snip, snipping all around me. Eventually, I found out. In my room, all of my clothes had been cut to ribbons. Odd shapes of diamonds and crescent moons were cut into my shirts, jeans, and even my underwear. "I just don't understand you," my mom sobbed when she saw. I tried my best to desperately explain to her that it wasn't me who was doing this, but neither of my parents believed me. A few nights later, we were sitting down for dinner. My mind was blank as I sat, moving my food around with my fork, barely able to eat. My vision tunneled. I had a feeling of being pulled out of my body, as if I'd been yanked out of it and forced to sit and watch as someone else took the wheel. "Are you going to tell Mom about your horror assistant from the publishing office?" My own voice hissed viciously at my father. I don't know who that was, but it wasn't me. I was frozen inside my own mind, clambering to get out. "Aaron," my dad yelled, but the shocked look he gave told the truth. My mom glowered at my dad. "Who are you looking at, Mother?" "Will you tell Dad about the man you've been talking to online? He's a con man, you know." The thing inside me said, speaking through my lips. The voice inside me left my parents stunned until my mom spoke. "Sweetie, how did you know about—" she began. "So, it's true," my dad yelled. After that, the two at the dinner table descended into incoherent arguments. The voice inside me laughed. Then, it spoke not to my parents, but only to me. "Worship at my altar, Aaron," I demanded. Then, the snipping sound returned, along with a burning pain in my arm. Inside, I was screaming, but I couldn't move. When my mom turned to me, she did the screaming for me. A crescent moon was carved into my arm, and a chunk of flesh fell to the floor. After that, I don't remember what happened. In the months that followed my parents' swift divorce, both of them had agreed that I needed to be institutionalized. While staying at the mental hospital, I never saw or heard any sign of the voice ever again. The only time I hear it is in my nightmares. That, and whenever I see the crescent moon scar on my wrist. What was it, Timothy? Will it come back? Yours, Aaron. Thank you for your honest testimony, Aaron. It appears that you may have fallen victim to a malicious entity, one with that insidiously invaded your body with a cause to spread misery and mischief. Guard yourself well against its return, Aaron. It may not be done with you. Our last testimony. Dear Timothy, I'm Frank, and I guess I am what you could call an amateur investigator. It's something that I've always wondered about and was desperate to experience for myself. It led me to go and see the Paw Paw Tunnel alone in the dark. I'd heard stories about this place and seen its history, and I was positive there would be something there, some gate to the paranormal realm. But as the mouth of the tunnel opened under the moonlit night, deep and hungry, I was having second thoughts. It had taken years to build this tunnel as part of the last stretch of the canal. In the 19th century, they spent a lot of money trying to carve this through the dirt. The project was constantly halted by blight, disease, disaster, and tensions between the workers. A lot of toil went into creating the cavernous hole bored through the mountain, and in the dark it stared at me, daring me to enter. It groaned as a chill blew through the air and echoed in its dark, abyssal mouth. My footsteps called back to me from inside it as I approached. I paused, turned on my camera, steadied my breathing, and marched along the path into the depths of the Paw Paw Tunnel. As the exit receded behind me, getting further and further away from the pale moonlit night, darkness surrounded me. I was enclosed by it as it swallowed me and my little flashlight up. It was hard to make sense of where any sound was coming from. It all bounced off the walls and echoed off of the water carried along the canal. If it weren't for the path and rail to guide me, you could almost lose your sense of direction. Like you weren't sure which side of the canal you entered. There was a sound from behind me. The scrape of a heel on dirt. I turned to see a large man, clad in a rough shirt and snarling an angry growl, holding a pickaxe over his head with intent to strike me. I fell to the floor, dropping my camera and shielding myself. The man swung his pickaxe down right on top of me. I heard the clang of a pick striking the ground. It pinged off the tunnel walls and repeated into the distance. The man with the pickaxe was gone. I scrambled to my feet, picked up my camera, and ran out as fast as possible. I drove home, threw my camera in the drawer, and didn't dare to look at it for weeks. Then the other day, I decided to write to you, Timothy. When I checked the footage, the camera had landed at an awkward angle, and it didn't see the man who attacked me. But I swear, I've played it over and over again, and I can still hear that pick, glancing off the rock and echoing through the tunnel. Yours, Frank. Thank you for your testimony, Frank. As I would warn all would-be investigators, I will warn you. Be careful about what you go looking for, as it could be looking for you too. That concludes this evening's ghostly broadcast, Paranormal Station. I've been your host, Timothy. If you enjoyed these testimonies and would like to be notified when our latest broadcasts go live, like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. If you have your own testimony of a brush with the paranormal, get in touch with the comment and support our work, archiving the encounters with the other side. Good night, listeners, and tread safely through the corners of this earth.